So, good evening. So we want to start on a new topic, which is meant to be management of the working capital. So we can now have a new topic as management of the working capital. So I'm going to get you the notes very soon in the course of the class. But I simply want to discuss some few items in relation to the management of the working capital. I simply want to share some few items in relation to the management of the working capital. So when it comes to the working capital, it is simply, so this one you don't write, I'll get you the notes. I'm going to give you the notes, but I'm simply discussing some few items in relation to the working capital management. So when it comes to the working capital, we are discussing about the current assets minus the current liability. That is what we mean by the working capital. Then when it comes to the current assets, we have something like the stock, the debtors, cash, and the rest. Then we can also have the creditors. So we shall be coming up with a way on how we can be able now to estimate what are the current assets, what are also the current liabilities. That's what we refer to as management of the working capital. Sorry, what we mean by the working capital. So in the handout, when you get it, it simply defined it as it refers to the management of the current assets and the current liabilities. So ordinarily, it normally involves the administration and the policy guidelines of the current assets and the current liabilities. That's now the information that we have. So there is also information I've given you about the importance of the working capital management. I've also given the importance of the working capital management, where we shall discover that some of those importance is that working capital represents the largest proportion of the business investment. That's why we need to manage it keenly. There is also the issue of being exposed to the risk. Normally, working capital has so many risks. Cash, it can be exposed to fraud. So you need to take care of it. So that's now another item we shall be looking at. But our major concern in this scenario will be the working capital financing policies. What are some of the policies we normally employ when we are managing the working capital? Like now for this case, there will be three of them. One of them will be the aggressive financing policy. The other one will be the conservative financing policy. The other one will be moderate or the matching financing policies. So when we shall be looking at them, like now the one for aggressive, when it comes to the aggressive, it means that all the working capital items will be financed using the short-term sources of finance. But when it comes to conservative, all the working capital items will be financed using the long-term sources of finance. But when it comes to moderate or matching, we have two types of the working capital: permanent working capital and fluctuating working capital. So permanent working capital, we finance it using the long term, but fluctuating, we finance it using the short term. So that's now when it comes to moderate or matching. So that's now the place I will be. So I'm making some copies for you. I will be giving you in the course of the class. But now I've said that there are how many financing policies? Three: aggressive, conservative, and what? Moderate or matching. So now I want us to discuss those terms in terms of using a question from your past papers. So let us get a question. So the topic is management of the working capital, isn't it? Yeah, so now we are on the financing policy. So I'm giving you the notes. They are simply pinning them together. Then online, they will be shared. So the first question I want us to use in that area. So go to the sitting of May 2019. go to the sitting of May 2019. Question number 2, part B. I want you to check a question in the sitting of May 2019. Question number 2, part B. May 2019. Question number 2, part B. May 2019. Mine is on page 32. Yeah, mine is on page 32. So online, are you able to see page 32? So we can get that question, which reads, it is question 2, part B on page 32. Yeah, kuna ingine iko page 36. Oh, in November, sorry. It is November 2019. So change that to November 2019. Question number 3, part B. November 2019. Question number 3, part B. November 2019. Question number 3. Sorry, question 2, part B, not 3, question 2, part B. So November 2019, question number 2, part B. So that question reads that Maua Horticultural Limited runs a flower export business. It runs a flower export business. The company has 2 sources of funds at different interest rates. The finance cost for the short-term funds is 20%, while the cost of the long-term funds is 25%. So these costs are expected to remain constant in the next 2 years. They are expected to remain constant in the next 2 years. The following are the projected monthly working capital requirement of the company for the year ending 31st December 2020. So you are given the month from January to December working capital required. So they gave you those figures. So required, Roman letter 1. The average monthly permanent and seasonal working capital requirement of the company. Then Roman letter 2, total cost of the working capital finance for the company under aggressive financing policy. Roman comma, conservative financing policy and the matching financing policy. Then finally advise the company on the appropriate working capital financing policy to adopt. So I want us to have that Roman letter 1. I want us to check through what is there in the Roman letter 1 as average monthly permanent and seasonal working capital requirement for the company. So let us prepare that schedule and see how it will be able to work out. So what we do in that category, we shall be having the column for the month. We shall have the column for the month. We shall have the column for the month. Then also the column shall also have the column. So online, have you seen some notes to the class group? Online, have you seen some notes in that class group? Just confirm for me before we proceed. Just confirm to me before we proceed. Online, are you able to hear me? No one is communicating. Anyway, let us proceed with the question. I know they are going to send. Let us now proceed with the question because I know they are sending. So we are preparing that schedule. We are preparing the schedule. So we'll be having the month. Then total working capital. Total working capital. Total working capital. The next one is now the permanent. Working capital. Yes, there is some. So there is the month, total working capital, permanent working capital, and seasonal working capital. So we have month, total working capital, permanent, seasonal, and in that order. So you have to see how to get the total permanent and the total seasonal. So we start off with, so there are 3 zeros at the top. So we start off with the month of January. We start off with the month of January. Start off with the month of January. So in the month of January, they gave you 35,000. Can you see 35? The month of January. So we need to get the permanent working capital. So to get the permanent working capital, I would like you to check from January to December. The permanent is the lowest among all the months. The permanent should be the lowest among all the months. So when you check from January to December, the lowest is 35. That is normally the permanent. The permanent will be 35. So to get the seasonal, we minus the permanent from the total. To get the seasonal, we minus the permanent from the total. So if we do that, what is the balance for January? 0. So the balance for January will be 0. The balance for January be 0. So the next one should be February. The next one is February. So February, they also gave me 35. So this one will remain 35. So this one, remember, it is still what? 0. So we go to the month of March. We go to the month of March. We are given which figure? 52,500. So permanent, I said it remains the lowest among all of them. So now when you subtract 35 from 52,500, 17,500. 17,500. So that is now for March, isn't it? Yeah. So we go to April. Go to April. So April, you are given 70. So this one is meant to be 35. So what should be the balance? So this one also 25. So we go to the next month. The next month is which month? So May is given as how much? 105. So this one still remains 5. So what should be the balance to go to? So the next month is supposed to be so this one remains 35. So that total should be which here? Sorry? 120. So now I want you to follow that order up the month of December. So you follow that order up the month of December, then you will get this total permanent and this total seasonal. Like that. So continue up to December.
PowerPoint for press? Yes. Okay. So we start on it's now 6:37. Unarudi saa ngapi? 6:45. So you have come back for those who have got for the prayers. Very water. So we proceed. So online you have confirmed you got the notes. Online, can you confirm whether you are able to get the notes? Before we proceed, online, can you confirm whether you have seen the notes? Yeah, so we want now to conclude. So you are supposed to come up with the average monthly permanent and average seasonal working capital. So to compute the average permanent, get the average permanent, to get the average permanent. You got a total of how much when you add it? For permanent was 420. Yes. So divide by 12, we just come back to 45. Yeah, so that's now the average permanent. That would be the average permanent. Then you also get the average seasonal. You also compute. So the total seasonal was how much? 855. Also you divide by 12. So that should be your Roman letter 1. Average monthly permanent and seasonal working capital requirement for the company. So we go to the Roman letter 2. We now go to the Roman letter 2. So Roman letter 2, they wanted you to get the total cost of the working capital finance for the company under an aggressive financing policy, conservative and matching. So let us start with the aggressive financing policy. So we can have aggressive financing policy. Let us now look at the aggressive financing policy. We now look at the aggressive financing policy. Now look at the aggressive financing policy. So for the aggressive financing policy, we summarize that under this policy, we can write something brief that under this policy, comma, all the working capital items under this policy, comma,
all the working capital items, all the working capital items are financed using the short-term sources of finance. They are financed using the short-term sources of finance. They are financed using the short-term sources of finance. Therefore, the total cost will be, so now to get the total cost. So total cost will be, take the 420,000, add 855, multiplied by the short term. What is the cost of the short term funds? It is given. No, it is what percent? 20. Yeah, so get 20% off. So in the first paragraph, you will see that they gave you 20%. So when you are using the aggressive, all the working capital items will be financed using the short-term sources of finance. So you simply add them together, then you get the value. So that is now for the aggressive financing policy. So let us go to the next one, conservative financing policy. We got to the next one, which is meant to be the conservative financing policy. So under the conservative financing policy, we summarize that under this policy, comma, all the working capital items, are financed. All the working capital items are financed using the long-term sources of finance. All the working capital items are financed using the long-term sources of finance. So can you confirm in the question? Long-term is what percent? Or to pay at 25%. Yeah, so total cost, you just get the total like that, but now get what? 5%. So you just add the two together, but now you get 25%. But now we get the 25%. So the next one is now meant to be matching. You can see the matching financing policy. So we got the matching financing policy or moderate. It is matching or moderate financing policy. Matching or moderate financing policy. The matching or moderate financing policy. So when it comes to the matching or moderate financing policy, we comment that under this financing policy, you can write something brief that under this financing policy, comma, permanent working capital. So under this financing policy, comma, permanent working capital will be financed
permanent working capital will be financed using the long-term sources of finance. Will be financed using the long-term sources of finance. Will be financed using the long-term sources of finance. While the seasonal or fluctuating working capital, while the seasonal or fluctuating working capital, while the seasonal or fluctuating working capital will be financed, using it is seasonal or fluctuating. Some questions they use it as temporary. So seasonal, fluctuating, or temporary, they refer to the same. I hope you get that part. Seasonal, fluctuating, or temporary working capital will be financed using the short-term sources of finance. Will be financed using the short-term sources of finance. Will be financed using the short-term sources of finance. So we can now get the total cost from this point. We can now get the total cost. So to come up with the total cost, so we start with the long term. So long term, we simply get 420,000 multiplied by 25%. So remember the long term is the long term debt is 25%. Yeah, then short term, take 855 multiplied by 20%. So you add them together. So permanent is financed using the long-term sources of finance. But seasonal or fluctuating is financed using what? Short-term sources of finance. So you combine them together, then you add. You combine them together, then you add. Yeah. So that now forms the base of your Roman letter 3. So we go to the Roman letter 3, where we are supposed to advise. In the Roman letter 3, we need to advise. So in that Roman letter 3, you advise the company on the appropriate working capital financing policy to adopt. So we adopt where the total cost is minimum. We adopt the policy where we pay less, isn't it? So among the 3 policies, where are you paying less? The aggressive. So we recommend that the appropriate financing policy, is where the total cost is minimum. Is where the total cost is minimum. Is where the total cost is minimum. Therefore, adopt the aggressive financing policy. 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 So that is now number 2. B. Yeah. So let us get another question. Let us now get another question. So the next question, I want you to check May 2012. The next question we got to May 2012. May 2012, question number 1, part B, starting on page 92. May 2012. Question number 1, part B. May 2012. Starting the question number 1, part B. It is on page 92. It is meant to be page 92. 1, part B. Question number 1, part B. So that question 1, part B, it reads that, you see the question 1, part B, the question reads that the projected monthly working capital requirement. The projected monthly working capital requirement for Jasimba Limited for the year ending 31st December 2012. For the year ending 31st December 2012 is as follows. It is as follows. So, are you able to see the month? Kuna hiyo next page. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and when? December. Then the expected cost of the short-term funds is 25%. The expected cost of the short-term funds is 25%, while that of the long-term funds is 13%. So you are to ignore the taxation. You are meant to ignore the taxation. So required a schedule showing amount of the permanent and seasonal working capital requirement for each month. So this is the schedule. You have the month,
the total working capital, the permanent and what? The seasonal. So you remember how to get the seasonal? Then you remember how to get the permanent.
Yes.
It's the lowest among all the month. That's now the Roman letter 1. Roman letter 2, average amount for the long term and the short term funds that will be required. So remember how to get the average. Now, average monthly, after getting the total for the permanent, we divide by 12, isn't it?
Yes.
And also after getting the total for the seasonal, you also divide by what? 12. That's now your Roman letter 2. That's now meant to be your Roman letter 2. Then Roman letter 3, total cost of the working capital finance. If the firm adopted which method? Yeah, so we have said that when you adopt aggressive, all the working capital are financed using the short term. So you add them together. So our short term cost in this question is 25%. Then Roman letter 4, total cost of the working capital finance. If the firm adopted which method? The conservative. So conservative, all of them are financed using what? Long term. Yeah. Then finally, Roman letter 5, total cost of the working capital finance. Using which method? Matching. So matching, we have said that long permanent will be financed using the long term, isn't it? But seasonal is financed using the short term. So you add them together in that manner. So can we draw the schedule? Can we prepare the schedule? Can we prepare now the schedule? So can we prepare that schedule? January, total working capital, permanent, seasonal, like that. So start from January. Start from January up to the end. So those are topics that are at the end of the syllabus, but one test. So that's why I rush to the end, then to slowly by slowly. When we have clearly covered all those sensitive topics, they know they are not normally much covered by the end of the class. So we should do that question within 10 minutes.
So have we finished the question? The advice is always aggressive if you are to advise. I hope that's what you can see in the question.
Yes.
So I want you to check a theory question, May 2018. May 2018, question number 1, part F. May 2018, question number 1, part F. Should be on page 44. On page 44. Are you able to see May 2018? Question number 1, part A.
Yes.
So that question 1, part A, they wanted you to explain 3 working capital financing policies and their implications in an organization. They would like you to explain 3 working capital financing policies and their implication in the organization. So I've given a brief explanation, but you go back to the handout. For you to answer that, I would like you to read through the handout. You can see on that page 1, under the working capital financing policy, number 1 is the aggressive financing policy. So when it comes to the aggressive, under this policy, all the working capital items will be financed using the short-term sources of finance.
So this is because the short-term sources of finance are normally cheaper, and by the company using them, it will minimize the cost of financing, but increase its profitability. However, the company's liquidity position will decrease, and it will be required to pay back the borrowed funds within what? A shorter period of time. So that's now the effect. That's now the effect where we say that, however, the company's liquidity position will do what? Will decrease, and it will be required to pay back the borrowed funds within a shorter period of time. So they have continued to explain current assets of the company can be classified into two as follows: permanent current asset and also temporary or seasonal. So that should be fluctuating. It's temporary or fluctuating. We change that. There is misspelling there, should be temporary or fluctuating, which is also seasonal. So it get there temporary or fluctuating or seasonal. So you can have then the conservative and the other one. So that is now what I wanted you to go through, those financing policies. Then now, apart from that, let us get another question in your past papers. So the next question I want us to deal with should be November 2020. November 2020. November 2020. There is a question number 2, part B. November 2020. There is a question number 2, part B. November 2020, there is a question number 2, part B. Mine's on page 27. November 2020, question number 2, part B, on page 27. Are we there on page 27? So they had said that Nduru Suppliers Limited is reviewing its working capital, commitments for enhanced efficiency, The following information relating to the period ended 31st March 2020 is provided. Turnover for the year is 15 million. The turnover for the year is meant to be 15 million. Then cost as the percentage of the sales is given. Direct materials, direct labor, also variable overheads, fixed overheads, selling and distribution. So additional information, note number 1, on average, account receivables take 2.5 months before payment. Raw materials are in the inventory for 3 months. Work in progress represents 2 months, worthy of the half of the produced goods. Then finished goods represent 1 month production. Note number 2, credit is taken as follows. Direct materials, there are 2 months. Direct labor, 1 week. Variable overhead, 1 month. Fixed overhead, 1 month. Selling and distribution, half a month. So note number 2, work in progress and the finished goods.
are valued at material, labor, and what? Variable expenses cost. So labor forces is paid for how many working weeks? 50 working weeks in a year, so required. Assess the working capital requirement of the company. So working capital, it is simply the current assets minus current liabilities. So let us see how to get the working capital. So working capital is simply the current assets minus the current liabilities. When you want to get the working capital, you simply take the current assets, you subtract the current liabilities. So we need to do some workings. So before we get the current assets and the current liabilities, so some workings, we start the sales or turnover, sales or simply turnover, sales or simply turnover for the year, by given 15 million. The sales or simply the turnover, it is meant to be 15 million. So from that item, you want now to get the total cost. You want now to come up into the total. So this is just the workings. I have not started calculating the current asset or current liabilities. It is simply some working. So in the total cost, you can see cost as a percentage of sales. The cost as a percentage of sales. So we start with direct materials. Start off with the direct materials. Start off with the direct materials. So for direct materials, it is 30%. So we get 30% of 15 million. Turnover, remember, is the same as the sales. We get 30% of 15 millions. So this one will be 4.5 millions. The next one is supposed to be direct labor. The next one is meant to be direct labor. So labor, it is what percent? 25% of 15 millions. So this one should also give us which figure? 3.7, just 3.75. How much? Just 3.7. 3.75. The next one should be variable overheads. The next one is meant to be variable overheads. Variable overheads, it is 10%. Variable overhead is 10% of the 15. Inakuja 1.5 minutes. The next one should be fixed overheads. Fixed overheads, which percent? 15%. So it will be 15% of 2.25. Then I also like you to convert the selling and distribution. Yes. So I want you to do some favors. Just get this total, the three. I'm part of the first three separate. Add the first three separate. Get an answer for the first three. 9.75. Yeah. So let us now start by getting now the current assets. We now get the average current assets. We now come. We now get the average current assets. We now get the average. So the first one will be the debtors. The first current asset will be debtors. Debtors are sales on credit. Debtors are normally those people you have sold goods to on credit. So I want you to go through the question in the note number 1. You can see note 1. Accounts. Accounts receivable are the same as our debtors, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, so to get that account receivable, they take how long before they make payment? 2 months. Yeah, so it will be 2.5 divided by 12 months. You know, here there are 12 months. So you take 2.5 divided by 12 months, but we multiply it by the sales. We assume all of them are on credit. We assume all of them are on credit. The sales is the turnover. You see the turnover? They gave you how much? They gave you 15 millions. 3 So here your average debtors. That is now the debtors. They take 2.5 months before they pay. So on average in a year, what would be that proportion? Average in a year, what would be that proportion? So that is now the debtors. Yes. Sorry? Sorry? You see? Yes, sorry. If you are weeks on a specified, if you are days, divide by the average. And this one we see. Now I want to compare weeks here. Here are weeks that convert into weeks. So it is there in the note number 1. You see note number 1 on average. They have said that account receivable are our debtors. They take 2.5 months, which is the same as 2.5. So divide by the total month in a year. Then get by the total sales or turnover. So sales, unless the question says this proportion is on cash, this proportion is on credit. That's what we apply. Then number 2 will be the stock of the finished goods. Stock of the finished goods. Number 2, we get the stock of the finished goods. So stock for the finished goods. Are you able to see the note number 1? One are you not 1? Bullet number 4. Now bullet 4. Finished goods represent
1 month.
Yeah, so that's the same as 1 over 12. But I want you to check down there. Now the note number 3. Note 3. What is there in note 3? Work in progress and finished goods are valued at material, labor, and what? So kuna figure niwaambia muadd. Remember the figure I asked you to add?
Yes.
How much did we get?
9,750.
9,750. Yeah, that information is in the note number 3. You see the note 3. They have said that work in progress and the finished goods are valued at material, non-ion, labor, and variable expense. Those are basically the variable overheads. So I ask you to add some material, labor, and overheads together. So remember that part. Yeah. So that's now the average stock of the finished goods. Now give me the average stock for the finished goods. So the next item would be the stock of the raw material. Yes. Stock. But hii wanakuambia wamespecify not number 3. You see the not number 3. Then work in progress is not finished goods. And work in progress is item which is partly manufactured and it is not yet completed, isn't it? Yeah, it is not there. Yes, yes. Here, this is the one work in progress. What they have explained in the note, here for the note number 3. Yes. Work in progress. And what? Those are 2 items. Work in progress is over the finished goods is over the. So when you also divide work in progress, part of the Tumia, material, labor, and overhead. Yeah. So the 2 of them compute the 3 items. Yeah. So you separate them in that order. So what do we get from that point?
8,500.
Sorry?
8,500.
8, 12,
500.
People. So then you 12 the stock of the raw materials. So standard number 3, the stock. Maybe let me start with the stock of the work in progress. We also have the stock of the work in progress. And those things that have been manufactured, but they are not yet complete. It is part of your stock. And it is a current asset. So if you go to the note number, you see that note 1, bullet number 3. You see the bullet number 3? Bullet 3, they have said that work in progress represents of the processed goods or produced goods, isn't it? So it will be 2 over 12, but they have stated in the note number 3. You see note 3. Work in progress and finished goods are valued at what? Material, labor, and variable overheads. But now, in the note number 1, bullet number 3, work in progress represents 2 months. Then worthy of a half. So you get a half of 9,750. Yeah, it is a half of this, but it is 2 months. It is a half of that, but 2 months. Because it is valued at material, labor, and overhead, but you only take half of that. That has not been completed. Then you convert it for that level. The next item should be number 4. The stock of the raw materials. The next item should be what? Stock of the raw materials. So stock of the raw materials is also your current asset. So no stock or material maker per store. So it is part of the current asset. So that one, you still got the note number 1. Are you able to see the bullet number 2? Raw material are in the inventory for how long? 3 months. So utachukua 3 divided by 12. We calculated the figure for the raw materials. And on raw materials, When you took 30%, 30% of the 15 million, how much was that figure for the raw materials? Equal 4.5. So multiplied by 4.5 millions. Inakuja ngapi hiyo? Sorry. So kama tungekuwa na cash, pia tunge-include as a current asset. But the question had no cash. So you should also consider that. If there was cash, we could have also factored in. But hakuna mahali tumepewa cash. So muta add hizo figure. Hizo ndio tutawapea current assets. You add those figures. They will now give you the current what? And then they should be able to give you the figure for the current assets. Part of the totals. So after the current assets, you have to compute the current liabilities. So we also get the average current liabilities. Now also come up with the average. Average current liabilities. Also get the average current liabilities. The first one is creditors. Unajua creditors or accounts receivable. Creditors or accounts receivable are normally purchases on credit. When you buy material on credit, that is your creditors. So go to the note number 2. Now credit is taken. Credit is taken as follows. Direct material how many months?
2 months.
Yeah, our creditors are our purchases of the raw material on credit. So we pay after 2 months. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so you take 2 over 12. So you remember the figure for the raw materials? Ilikuwa ngapi? 4 point?
5.
It was 4.5. So you get that figure. 715.
50.
750,000. So we get 750. The next one will be accrued labor. Labor that has not been paid. So normal accrued expenses. So they have said that labor they pay, they delay to pay by how many weeks?
1 week.
Yeah, so we refer to it as accrued labor. Yeah, you have not paid your workers. So they delay by 1 week. So this one is computed in terms of weeks. Yeah. But they say in the note number 4, labor force is paid for how many working weeks in a year? 50. So divide by 50 weeks. We had calculated the cost of labor. how much? Correct? 3.75 million. So they are not there. That's 75. The next one is, it is accrued variable overheads. No, you're not. Two. Variable overhead may delay to pay by how long? Yeah, so you take 1/12. But how much was the figure for the variable overheads? 1.5 million. The next one is accrued fixed overheads. So accrued fixed overheads, ilikuwa how many months? So you take 1/12. How much is the figure for the fixed overheads? 2 points. 2 points. Then also accrued selling and distribution. So accrued selling and distribution is a half a month, which is the same as 0.5. Yeah. Divided by 12. So how much was the selling and the distribution? Sorry? So mkishamaliza sasa mna subtract. Working capital is current assets minus current liabilities. So working capital, you now simply take the current assets minus what? Current liabilities. Simply the current assets minus the current liabilities. So when we meet, I will do one more question on that. Yes. Yeah, but I wanted to start today. At least most of you are in class. Yeah. So you see the concept now. Yeah. But otherwise, kama ningeanza Saturday when people are not there, nikifanya swali lingine leo. Yes, wakasema where are we getting the work? Yeah. But no, not that much like when you are not in class. Yeah. At least you see some discussion. So we can stop there for today.